Hello, and thank you for joining me. There's something I want to mention at the beginning of the video because I know a lot of people don't watch the whole video, so I don't want to put this at the end. If you are interested in my channel, if you follow my channel, and you're also active on Facebook, I have now a page to promote this channel basically, so do feel free to like that page, tell your friends about it, and obviously I'd like to get my videos seen, so feel free to share videos, and at the end of this video I will have a subscribe option, and feel free to share and check out my recent videos. I want to talk about the Heineken advertisement that was released recently. I think it's an interesting advertisement. Obviously it was aimed at the UK market because everyone in it had a British accent, so I'm guessing it was aimed for the UK market, but it really says a lot about the nature of political discourse, and I think there's a lot to say about that. So, in this advert, basically, there's a sort of warehouse setting, and it kind of shows these strangers coming together in groups of two, and they have to kind of assemble all these boxes together. And you think, what's this all about? And then you realize they're building a bar, like the rectangular side of a bar with boxes and so on. And then it has two little X's, and it says open the box and put the beers on these X's. Now, the interesting thing about this is the people come in, they don't know each other at all, they know nothing about the other person. However, initially you see introduction videos where the people are talking about their politics. So you have this white guy who's talking about his dislike of feminism. You have a black woman who's talking about how she's very left wing and a feminist. You have a guy who's a climate change skeptic and a guy who believes it's a very important issue. And you have all these setups. So there's about three or four altogether. Um, so, like I said, these people come in. They don't know each other's politics. They just come in and they have to start working together. Oh, and there's another one, a transgender woman and a man who's got quite conservative views on that. Now, the catch here is that they're sort of talking, and there are some questions. The questions are, uh, say, three things that you have in common, and then they have to kind of rack their brain. Well, I hardly know this person, but we're doing this together, and it's kind of guided in such a way that they end up quite liking each other, or at least being civil, if I could describe it that way. What they then do is play back the video of that introduction video so the other person sees what their views really are, which, needless to say, is going to be somewhat awkward. But then it says you now have a choice. You can sit down and talk about your differences, or you can walk away. Of course, they all end up sitting down and talking about it. Now, in regards to the video, it's certainly an interesting video. It did irritate some people because they felt that it was being too political for a beer company. They should just stay out of politics. There were also some right wingers saying it was having a go at the right wingers in the video. I don't think it was, actually. I think it was neutral because it wasn't saying their views are bad. It was just saying their views were different. So I think that was being a little bit paranoid. I don't think that was the case because the left wingers also had to, speak to the person they disagreed with. So it worked both ways. Um, but it got me thinking about the real world situation, and if this is plausible in the real world. Now, it's a nice experiment, and it's a feel good thing at the end. Oh, they're all getting on well, but I'm not sure if it would be the same response as if the cameras weren't there. I think in the real world it might be more likely that people would sort of get on well, then they find out the person has different politics. They might continue to get on well, but I think it's more likely that they'll make excuses and leave or get into a debate. But I don't want to be cynical, I don't want to bash Heineken because it's a good idea and I think it's much needed. Western societies these days do seem very divided, so I'm not going to bash Heineken. I think they've got good intentions with the ad. Um, there's another factor, of course, assuming that everyone drinks. if you're having a difference of opinion with a religious person who doesn't drink, that rules out that experiment. But yeah, it has good intentions. But in the real world, so here's the thing: you could be walking down the street, you have no idea if the person walking past you is pro Labour, pro Conservative, pro Lib Dem, pro UKIP, or completely apathetic to politics. You just don't know. And it's not a case that you can judge based on someone's appearance. That goes without saying because people can't be surprising. Um, so there's just no way to know. You can guess again. I suppose you could guess if someone's wearing a T-shirt saying "Smash the patriarchy," you could probably work out that they're feminist. But other than that, it is hard to tell. You can't, until you talk to someone, you can't know what the politics is. Now, I've mentioned before these these left-right clashes that have been recurring a lot, especially in the United States, but also in other Western countries. That is, when you have, for example, pro-Trump supporters clashing with the far left. I don't have much sympathy with either side, although I would say I think in recent months it's been the far left that's had a more of a tendency to use violence. However, at the start of the campaign, the Trump supporters were not immune from it, and they're lying if they said that no Trump supporter has done that because they have. So I basically I have as little time for the populist right as I do with the regressive left. Though these days I would say the regressive left is more likely to use violence. Um, but those are the extremes, or at least those are the people might resent me saying extremes. Well, those are the passionate frontline politics, if I could put it that way. Most people either don't care enough to get involved in those face-to-face confrontations. They do care, but they don't want the hassle of it. They don't want the stress of it, or they're apathetic. So the way I feel about it is I have very strong views on a wide number of issues, and I use my channel to vacuum my opinions on those things. I think this is a wonderful thing, and I'm very grateful that YouTube provides this medium, to basically give me a voice. That's what it does. It gives YouTubers a voice to say what they want. Now, obviously, like anything, like any free speech scenario, there is a caveat that you might say things that people don't like, and you might find yourself getting a lot of thumbs down. But the point is, it gives you that outlet. I could just say what I want. People aren't going to interrupt me, and that's it. Now, in the real world, would I go into a pub and say to someone, "Oh, what's your opinion of feminism?" I might, but I would do it in a much more subtle way because I find that most people don't particularly like awkward conversation. And debate's a wonderful thing. It has a place in democracy. It's important. But I think what some people need to understand is that there are times when you have your opinion, they have theirs, and you're not going to change the other person's mind. So I do feel that there are times, although debate is a good thing, when you do have to just concede, okay, I've said my piece, they've said theirs, let's leave it there, and agree, agree to disagree. I think part of the problem when it comes to debate is ego. Inevitably, that comes into it. Neither side want to look like they're losing. Neither side want to give ground. And we have this absurd situation whereby if you do compromise, if you do actually agree with some things the other person is saying, it's being seen as weakness. It's not. If I disagree with someone, if I find certain things that they're saying, I'm going to concede that. I'm going to say, okay, well, I agree with you there. I'm not going to disagree with people to be tribal just for the sake of it. And that's something I think can that puts me off left right politics because so much of it is tribal. It's about trying to make points and about trying to say, and this is an inherent problem I think with party politics as well. When someone joins a political party, they have to kind of go along with the party line, and that's okay. That's what you expect, but I don't think it's weakness, and I don't think it's selling out to find common ground where there is common ground. Yesterday I saw John Major's concession speech. Now, he said something interesting in 1997 when he lost the election. He said something interesting. Where we agree with the government, we will be fair. So what he was driving at, and I think this is why John Major has a reputation, because he was obviously a conservative prime minister with conservative views, but he understood that sometimes in politics you can find common ground. And that's just one example. There's many other examples of this. You can probably find it in every party leader at some point. But especially online, there is so much tribalism. And I'm not sure if that is a wonderful asset to democracy. Rigorous debate is okay, but disagreeing just for the sake of it. I mean, I'll be honest, I detest what the SNP stands for, i.e., their agenda is to break up the United Kingdom. I'm a staunch unionist. But I'm not going to use ad hominem attacks against Nicola Sturgeon about her appearance or anything like that. I'm not going to disagree with the SNP just for the sake of it. So if they say something I agree with, I'm not going to, I'm not going to stand in the way of what that might be. So if, for example, they said, we believe that Tory welfare cuts are hitting some of the most vulnerable people the hardest, I'm not going to disagree with that because it's true, in my opinion. Well, it's true, right? So I think what going back to that Heineken ad, what it really comes down to is that sometimes we can get the impression that things are very, very tribal. And the truth is, if you have strong views on political matters, it's hard to, it's not hard to feel impassioned about it. I mean, it is hard to feel not impassioned about it because if you have strong views, you want to articulate those views. And if you feel that your side is losing or your side is on the attack, your natural response is to be defensive. And that's totally human. I've done it myself. I know all about that. But I also think we have to recognize that where there are areas that you agree with someone, just because they're from another political persuasion overall, doesn't mean that you have to just. There may be some areas that you agree on. So, for instance, I'm very outspoken about third wave feminism. I don't like it at all. But I might find, okay, there might be a feminist who is always going on about the patriarchy and etc. etc. However, I might find that she and I have common ground on another area, maybe again something like welfare cuts impacting the disabled. We might agree on something like that. So what I'm saying is, I'm not sure if it's that common that you find someone that you're 100% opposed to in every single area. It happens for sure, it happens, but I'm not saying that people shouldn't be passionate. I'm not saying that people have to be ultra polite either, because I'd be a hypocrite if I was to say that. I make these videos vocalizing my views, opinionating. I I say a lot of I make a lot of criticism of other people in my videos, so I'd be a bit of a hypocrite if I was preaching about everyone being polite, and that's not reality. But I would say don't be tribal for the sake of it. So if you're a right winger, don't automatically attack left wing people just because they're left wing. If you're a left winger, don't automatically attack right wing people just because they're right wing. Listen to what they're saying, and if you disagree, you disagree. But sometimes you might actually find agreement, right? So in the video, for instance, the conservative man found out that the transgender woman had served in the armed forces. So he said, "Oh well, I immediately respect you for that." Okay, so that's common ground. Um, the black feminist woman might find that she might find empathy. The man said he experienced homelessness. Maybe she's sympathetic to homeless people, so that might be an area that they find common ground, or not common ground, but understanding. The problem is if you're always super reasonable, if you're always super civil, people think you don't have conviction. And it's something I don't like about politics is that this idea that if you're respectful, if you're civil, you somehow lack conviction. And it was one of the charges that was most thrown at Nick Clegg during the coalition talks. Um, well, it was a bit more than that. It was the fact he joined the Conservative government. But I don't think. I think you can have integrity and conviction, but also agree where you do agree. I don't think that's a sellout. And I really, really would challenge that idea. Because in the end of the day, if this country was in a state of war under serious attack, and I'm not talking about a terrorist incident, I'm talking about actually invaded or something like that, would we really be talking about people's specific political ideology? No. We'd have to come together as a nation. It happened in World War II with the coalition government. Clement Attlee, the Labour leader, was brought into Churchill's cabinet. So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting talking points with that. Let me know your thoughts. Summed up, I do think there's a place for being passionate and angry and criticise, but don't be tribal for the sake of it. Thank you for watching.